Alright y'all, I'm going to get straight into this video. No introduction, I'm just going to start because I'm demoralised, disappointed. I don't know what the road forward is in relation to the Summer Wells case. So, we're going to talk about that. Alright, so remember a few days ago, Don Wells went on to the Labs panel when Chris McDonough was a guest on there. Chris offered the help to Don and Candice from the Cold Case Foundation. Don said that he was going to talk to Candice and they were going to think about it. So, this is the answer. This is from the lab. The link to this live stream is in the description box. I'm only going to play you a few seconds of it. So, go over there and listen to the rest yourself.
And that will be that's a no-go. The offer's no longer, it's not happening.
It's not happening. Candice doesn't want to do it, according to Josh from the lab. Now, that's not unexpected. I thought Candice was going to say that. I was suspicious myself. I've got to tell you, the video that I made the other day about this, I said that I sincerely hope that this isn't some kind of ruse that Chris is pulling because he's got it in for Don. And I hoped very much that Chris would be professional enough for that not to be the case. But you could hear Candice chuntering in the background when Don was on the panel with Chris and Josh. And I made the observation that maybe Don is too trusting and Candice isn't. Candice is more suspicious. She's had her fingers burnt not just from Chris, but from a bunch of other people. Having said that, Candice certainly doesn't help herself because the people that are trying their best to help her, Candice can turn on them, as we've seen recently with Candice's friend Cassie, who's come out and spoken about her experience. So Candice doesn't help herself. She's a funny old bird. She's probably a lot like me in some respects, that I'm a very private person, and if you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. And I do think Don is too trusting. He keeps coming back again and again and again, and he gets his fingers burnt again and again and again. But Don seems to be able to, I don't know, handle it better. Not better. You shouldn't have to handle it like that. In a different way than Candice. So, it's a no-go. Now, I'm wondering whether Candice and, by extension, Don don't understand what the Cold Case Foundation are. Because Chris is just one member of the Cold Case Foundation. The Cold Case Foundation is lots and lots of people. I showed you the website the other day on that video that I did. Go and watch it or check out the Cold Case Foundation yourself. I'll leave a link to it in the description box. There's a bunch of investigators. There's a bunch of forensics people. There's a bunch of psychologists. There's medical examiners. So the Cold Case Foundation can draw on a lot of expertise. What can the Cold Case Foundation do at this stage, nearly 2 years into the investigation? Well, the clue's in the name. They specialise in cold cases. The situation isn't as straightforward as this, because I caught some of Crazy Critters, I never remember her channel name, Crime, Crazy and Critters on the Farms. This is Miss Daisy's channel. And Candice was in the chat. I'm going to play a little bit of this.
Daisy, please ask Candice if they asked NCC. Listen, y'all, I don't know if they were going to do that. Like, Candice didn't have the best experience in the world with Chris M. So I don't blame her if she don't want to fool with him right now because of what happened before. They have turned down professional help. We don't know that. I would love anything to find my daughter Summer. I haven't turned anyone away, but I'm not going over Don's head on some people.
So I'm not going over Don's head on some people. So according to Josh, it was Candice that put the kibosh on it. But according to Candice, she's not going over Don's head. So is she talking about Chris, or is she talking about someone else completely? So they went on to talk about the Cold Case Foundation. People in the chat were chiming in correctly that the Cold Case Foundation isn't Chris. Chris is just one of the investigators. I would like to see the Cold Case Foundation get involved, and it be a stipulation, if Don and Candice don't want Chris involved, that Chris isn't involved. There's plenty of other people within the Cold Case Foundation who have the expertise that could assist on this case. They could even draw a contract and sign a contract, right, that Chris isn't involved, or Chris doesn't talk about it on YouTube. Look, Chris and the Cold Case Foundation together as an entity were involved in the case of little Michael Vaughan from Fruitland, Idaho. Chris was there at the press conference. But Chris has become a friend of Brandy and Tyler. Brandy and Tyler have had a completely different experience from Chris than Don and Candice did. I don't know what specific involvement the Cold Case Foundation had, but it's a very different situation. Miss Daisy made this point. I agree with her on this, that Brandy and Tyler have had a lot of support from their law enforcement. Their law enforcement have welcomed help. Whereas in the Summer Wells case, law enforcement have been shockingly bad. And it begs the question, why have they been shockingly bad? And Daisy says one of the things that I've been saying. Listen to this.
Y'all don't know what it's like here in Tennessee. They let people literally get away with shit. The big shots, they cover it for each other's backs in the state.
And Daisy was talking about the Good Old Boys Network. You know, they all know each other, they all meet each other, the higher-ups in law enforcement, in local government, chief doctors, they all know each other. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of thing. We've talked about that extensively on this channel. I mean, look, in Hawkins County and Beech Creek, they're all related to each other. Don and Candice are outsiders. So if they had anything at all on Don and Candice, I truly believe at this stage they would have been arrested. Now, have Don and Candice pulled off a disappearance of their daughter and law enforcement have completely missed it? Possible. Anything's possible. Nearly 2 years down the road, that's why I'm inclined to say they're still suspects, but let's consider the possibility that they're innocent. And I truly believe that Don is. I truly believe at this stage, having gone all around the houses round the long way to get to this conclusion, I truly believe Don was at work and doesn't know anything. And Don is too trusting and he believes what Candice has told him. Now, I might be wrong on that. Don might know and might be covering up for Candice. It looks bad. It looks really bad that they've refused the help of the Cold Case Foundation. It does. It looks bad. And it begs the question why. Now, is it because they've had their fingers burnt? Is it because they don't understand that Chris isn't the Cold Case Foundation? Chris is just a member of it. He's not even part of the executive team. It's not his foundation. Maybe that needs to be explained to them, and for them to sit down with members of the Cold Case Foundation, like the executives, and see what they can do. But it demoralises me about law enforcement, because surely at this stage, nearly 2 years down the line, it does require completely new eyes on the case. Daisy's right, it does require new eyes on the case. I'd love to see the FBI take over the investigation, but that's not what the FBI do, is it? I mean, they did in the Dylan Rounds case, didn't they? Didn't they just come in and take over? I got that wrong? Because things seem to move. Once the FBI really got involved, they seemed to move on it. You know, Box Elder County was shocking. And it seems to be the same with Hawkins County. I mean, when was the last time we had an update from the TBI? I'm going to check. I know the last press conference we had was nearly a year ago. 15th of June, marking the year, they did a press conference, and it was a very terse conversation that Leslie Earhart had with the media. like didn't want to answer hardly any questions. Do you remember? So they updated for the year, and then they updated again on the 15th of November. The investigation into the circumstances surrounding the disappearance of Summer Wells remains active and ongoing. In order to preserve the integrity of the investigation, we cannot discuss specifics. Unfortunately, we have no new updates to provide publicly. Should we develop new information that could help in locating Summer, we will notify the news media and public immediately. The information released by the TBI throughout the investigation, including a list of frequently asked questions, can be reviewed below. So we've reviewed all those. I've gone through all of those multiple times on this channel. I'm assuming that they're going to do another update on the 15th of June to mark the 2 years. And maybe they're updating every 6 months. I don't know. But they need new eyes on the case. And I don't mean YouTubers. I mean people who actually have access to the police files. I mean, God, I would love to get my hands on the discovery, the police files. I would love to get my hands on it and go through every single piece of evidence. Is that going to happen? No, of course it's not, because it is an active and ongoing investigation, allegedly. But if there's no new updates, does that mean the case is cold? Surely the Cold Case Foundation or anybody else, the FBI, is only as good now as the investigation was then. As in, the place to start is right at the beginning, going through every single piece of evidence again. Because things like, live scent tracking, that's long gone. Even if Summer's body was found, unfortunately, it's a sad and tragic truth that there wouldn't be much left of that body. The cause of death probably couldn't even be established at this point. It's tragic. But if we want to know what happened to Summer, and whoever it was who caused whatever happened to Summer needs to be brought to justice, and that requires a completely new investigation, starting with the files that the police have and working forward from that. That's the only way forward. YouTubers aren't going to do this. They did that 13-day search, didn't they? June 2021 into July. They threw everything at it. And then they just did little searches here and there. They did the November one. They did a day in February of the following year. John Pruitt updated. What was that? February, March, April, whenever, 2022. John Pruitt's not been seen since, has he? I just feel, where do we go from here, guys? And just constantly blaming the parents is not going to help at this point, because the investigation needs to start from scratch. Needs to start from scratch with those police files. I think that the cops thought this was going to be an easy win, and they were going to find the evidence to arrest the parents, and that would be that, a win for them. And that didn't happen. Now, either it's because Don and Candice are evil geniuses, or they're innocent. There isn't the evidence available because they were innocent. So we've got to look elsewhere. And people call me a Wells supporter. I'm not. I'm Summer's supporter. If the parents are guilty, then I hope they rot in hell. But at this stage, we've got to widen the net. This is what I've been doing on this channel. That's why I've got over 450 videos on Summer Wells. The Summer Wells playlist on this channel is way bigger and more extensive than any other case I've done, including the Watts case, including Nicola Bulley, which is in my own county. Summer's case is the one that I keep coming back to because there's so much to do. There's so few answers. And I've gone through every possible person that I can think of. Every possible theory, every possible permutation. And there's still no answers. No answers for you on this channel. There's no answers anywhere. So it needs to be a brand new strategy. Will Hawkins County comply? No, probably not. They're just going to want to just sit on their arse, sit on their hands, and let the case go cold. It's demoralising. And it's nearly 2 years that little girl has been missing out there somewhere. We need answers. She needs to be brought home. And justice needs to be served. How? I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye, guys.